Project for today is going to be this Craftsman YT3000. It's not currently running. He was saying that sometimes it would fire up and run and then it would die, and then other times it would just not start at all. This is a Briggs Intek engine. I'm not sure the horsepower on this one. I'm thinking it's around like 19 horsepower, something like that. The model is a 331877. So these were okay engines. If they were taken care of, they weren't too bad, but they were prone to losing valve guides, or the valves coming out of adjustment and then they started hard, or the cams going out on them. The cams had a automatic decompression that would fail, and then the starter wouldn't turn the engine over anymore. But if they had a decent cam in them, they did seem like they lasted quite a while. I'm looking at this fuel filter, looks pretty dirty in there, so I'm wondering if that was getting plugged. It does have a fuel shut off, so I'm going to shut that off now, and then we'll probably replace this fuel filter. I did have the air cleaner off and I put a little bit of gas in there and it did fire up, but then I tried it again and it didn't fire up, so that's about all I did to it when they first brought it in, just to see. Down in the gas tank here does not look very good. It's empty and there's some junk down in there, so I'll get a grabber and see if I can get, looks like a piece of a gas can spout. We'll get that out of there and we'll put some gas in it. The oil looks pretty darn clean. It doesn't smell like gas or anything. It did have a date on the oil filter of 6/25, so this is July right now, so that was only a month ago as the oil was changed. So I'll get you set up and we'll get started. So I'm gonna see if I can grab this stuff out of the tank. Yeah, that is a piece of a gas can. Let's see what else we got in there. I don't know what that is. It's almost like a piece of silicone. There's another piece of it. I don't know if there was a, maybe they had a gas can that was patched or something. There is some water down in there. I don't know if you see that darker kind of brown looking stuff. That's water. I can see that separated from a little bit of gas that is in there. So I'll take a rag on that grabber and I'll sweep it around in there and dry it out and clean it out, and then we'll put a fuel filter on it and probably drain the carburetor out. So I showed this on videos before, but I just put a shop towel on one of these grabbers and then just run it around inside some of these tanks, especially if they're difficult to remove. This one wouldn't be too bad to take off, but there's usually a lip that makes it hard to get everything drained out of it anyway. So I do this and then I'll spray some compressed air down in there to get it completely dry. If there's a little bit of junk in there, it's not the end of the world. As long as there's no water, you want all the moisture out of there. It only takes a few drops of water. It can mess up a carburetor on a small engine. So it looks like we've got that fairly clean. Now we'll go back down to the other side and change that fuel filter. So I've got the gas shut off. Even there's probably still a little bit in the lines. Well, let's see if we can pull this line off of here. They get pretty stuck on these plastic filters. That side's coming out of there. So I'm going to dump the filter out. You can see all that black junk, and there's some of that silicone actually got down in this filter too. So I don't see any water down in this. Usually you'll see it pool down in the lower corner. and blew a little air through it. Yeah, there was all kinds of junk in there. So we'll leave the filter off and I'll put a little bit of gas in it. We'll run it down into a clean pan and make sure we're getting clean fuel flow. So I dumped some fresh gas in there. We'll turn the fuel on and let it flow for a little bit. I saw a couple little pieces of junk come out of there. But all in all, it looks fairly clean. So I think that'll be okay, especially there'll be a filter there. So I'm using a Sten's 120-436 fuel filter. Your rotary used to have a filter like this, but now they go to that other style that we just took off. But this looks a lot like this. It's got a taper, so you can put it on 5/16 or 1/4 inch line. But these, seems like the filter doesn't come disconnected inside. The other ones will sometimes come disconnected when it's this style. So when you see the metal in there, it's a crimp that holds it in there, and they fall off sometimes, and then the junk just goes right past the filter, so I don't really prefer those kind. They claimed when they changed the rotary ones that they wouldn't do that, but I used them for about 6 months and I saw the first failure already on them, so I pretty much figured they would when they switched from that style. So now I'm going to take just this fuel solenoid out of the bottom of the float bowl here. This right here. That doesn't remove the entire float bowl. There's 2 screws for that are up here, but this should drain the float bowl just to see if we have any junk in there. So these are just a 1/2 inch wrench. Sometimes it takes a narrower wrench. This is one that I got at an auction or something that was already really narrow. It's kind of an odd wrench, but it was a really thin profile, so it works good for these carburetors like this. I'll get this under there so we can catch it. A little bit of junk came out, but nothing terrible. Wipe this clean. So I think the carburetor's okay. I think it was just that. It was just that fuel filter was plugging. I suppose I could turn the fuel on here and let it drain for a little bit, flush it out. Yeah, I don't see anything alarming coming out of there. Put that back on. Tighten it up. I'll plug this back in. Turn the fuel back on, let the carb fill up, and we'll give it a try. I'm not 100% sure that's going to be the only issue, but that was one of the issues. I did throw a spark tester on it when it wouldn't start on me, and that it did have spark, so I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue or not. It could be intermittent spark that we're not seeing when I tested it for spark, but we'll throw the air cleaner back on it and see if it'll fire up. If it doesn't, then we'll dig into it farther. And we'll give it a shot. Well, it seemed like it was okay. It didn't fire up like that at all before, so our fuel filter stayed pretty clean. I'm not sure, I have worked on this one before. You can go back and see a previous video on this one, I put all the new steering links and everything in it. So if you want to watch that one, I'll put a link in the description. But I think for now, I'll throw that cover back on the air cleaner and we'll go take it for a test drive and make sure everything's good to go. Well, everything seemed to work okay. It seemed to run pretty good. There's one more thing I need to tackle. I just noticed though is there's a huge mouse nest back here. You can kind of see it behind the gas tank. So we're gonna have to get that out of there. There's a lot of wires and stuff back there. So if they move back in, they're gonna be chewing on a bunch of stuff. So we'll have to pull this gas tank out of here and deal with that. And then this steering wheel, you can see how it moves up and down like that. So we'll take a look at that. I'm not sure if this collar is supposed to hold it and that clip is just broke, or if there's a bushing down in there that's bad. We'll take a look at that. So we'll run it back in the shop and start doing that. We'll see how it fires up now that it's warm. Yeah, it runs good. So I'm going to pull this gas line back off. I've got the gas shut off again. It does look like we might have a small leak on the bottom of the tank. And then I'm going to pull this line. This is just a vent line on the top of the tank. And then we'll have a couple of 3/8 bolts holding the tank down. Should be just a bolt on each side. Should come up and out of there. And you can see that nest in there, so I'll have to get something to clean that out with. And kind of a bunch of it kind of fell down in there too. And it looks like I don't see a bushing other than maybe one in the middle there that could be wore out for that steering shaft. Why that's rocking back and forth. I don't know if this collar, it is less wobbly when that collar is down, so we'll see if there's a tab broke on that. So this tab is broken down here to hold this collar on. The bushing down in there doesn't look that worn, so there always is a little bit of movement in there. But what I'm going to do is just put a screw right in the center where that tab is. That way it'll hold that. It's not a very sharp screw apparently. Plus I'm not completely straight. There we go. That holds it quite a bit tighter. It still has some slop in it, up and down you can see, but that bushing in there is right Not sure if you can see that. There's so much junk in the way, but right here, it's a little bit worn, but it's nothing terrible, so I'm just gonna do that for now. He didn't want to have me have to tear apart the whole thing. I'd have to pull that shaft all the way up and out of there, which isn't too big a deal. There's a pin down in there, and then the gear, and then we could probably just pull it up out of there and replace that bushing, but for now that'll work. It's not too big a deal. We got the main issues with the steering fixed I think it was last summer we did all that, so it's a lot tighter than it was. And I got that mouse nest vacuumed out of there, and the wires looked okay. It didn't look like anything got chewed or anything. So now I'm gonna address that leak on the bottom of the tank. There's a bushing on the bottom here that looks like it was wet. So I'm gonna see if I have a bushing to replace that with, because I'm sure that rubber bushing is what's leaking there. So we're just gonna pull this bushing out. Sometimes the center comes out before the bushing, but this one is, you gotta be careful. You don't want to bust that plastic there, so I'm not pulling super hard. I'm just trying to slowly work it out of there. I'm thinking this is what they tried to silicone. It's slowly coming out of there. There's a lip you can kind of get behind to pull. There, I felt it come past. Then there's that's the plastic piece that goes up inside the bushing. And then that's the bushing. You can kind of see where it's squeezed in, and it kind of ends up shrinking, so they end up leaking. I don't see any cracks or anything on the bottom of the tank. They can crack around that and leak also, but I'll go take a look and see if I have a bushing like that to replace. So these are the bushings I have to replace it. This was a 10 pack, so I'm not sure if the part number would be correct, but it's a 20-7730 rotary part number, and then it says a bunch of stuff that it replaces, but there's a 12337 bushing number for a snapper that it says it replaces. These are a kind of just a common thing. And we'll try to shove this through there. There we go. So that should be a lot tighter. This fuel line feels a little bit loose on there too. I might snip the end of that off and then slide it back on. So I'll just pull this off and we'll just snip the end. A lot of times it's just the end gets stretched out from being pushed over that fitting for so long. That's one reason why I like these spring style clamps, is they do continue to put pressure down. See, now I can't turn it, so that's a lot tighter fit. We'll have to, well, I can turn it, I guess it's just harder to turn. So we'll set that back down in there and get it all connected back up and make sure it fires up again and doesn't leak. I'll throw the tank back up here. Just got the fuel line coming out of there backwards. Doesn't appear to be leaking though, so that's good. Set back down. Let's start these bolts. breather hose back on there. And we'll connect up our fuel line. Hopefully it's still long enough. Oh yeah, that's plenty long. That on there, turn the fuel back on. I'll let it sit for a little bit and then we'll recheck it for leaks on the bottom of that tank. And if it doesn't leak, this one should be good to go. Well, it's been about 10 minutes or so and it looks completely dry underneath here. So I'm thinking that we fix the leak so we can try firing it up one more time just to make sure that it's good. It always worries me a little bit when they say that the mower would run every once in a while and sometimes it didn't, because I don't know if it's just not acting up for me or if we actually found the issue. So we'll fire it up. It still fires up really good, so I think this one's going to be good to go. So that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.